So hey guy, how are you all? So well, back to my channel, Fiction Star. So I will start with new series. The series name is What If Naruto and Midoriya Were Teammate and Beat the Demon God. So, let's start the video. Izuku Midoriya was a lot of things. He was a devoted hero, who protected the innocent fiercely. He was someone who rose up from the bottom rung of society due to the support of others. He was a friend and rival to many classmates. Some would say he was the most determined, hard-headed, self-sacrificial person out there. But whatever he was, he definitely wasn't a blonde kid with whiskers. When Izuku reincarnated into someone new, he still remembered his past life, his friends whom he cherished, his life as a hero until he finally retired, how he followed his sensei and inspiration, All Might, into the teaching career, passing along his knowledge to the next generation. He was shocked, but he was old when he died. Thankfully, he missed his old family and friends. But he moved on from that when he reincarnated. He supposes it's a perk that when he thinks of them he only feels joy and barely restrained care. He thought this new life would bring something different. Of course, when he first opened his eyes, he didn't expect to get taken by a masked man, tossed around everywhere in the village until inevitably seeing his new parents die mere moments after his birth, impaled by a gigantic fox. He didn't expect to see some demon appear and take his parents' souls to seal said fox inside him, seemingly a second time if the words of said kitsune are to be believed. And it hurt a little, because he was just reborn. He has a new life here, and mere hours after it began, he's already lost the two people he could have called mom and dad. And from the few moments he got them, he could feel their love, the same love he felt for his own children in his first world. He felt it, and he lost it instantly. They spoke to him as they died, words about shinobi and prohibition and finding a girl and so many things. But he wished that he wasn't hearing them choke on their blood as they said it. He wishes he could hear them say that to him when he was a teenager, when they were eating dinner at the table rambling, not when their blood is falling on him. The last thing he remembers before falling asleep is the name Naruto. Years pass after that moment, and nothing gets easier. For a while, everything was normal. Well, as normal as it can be for an orphan. He learns of the world. Izuku finds out about shinobi, the Hokage, Konoha, and it's all so very unique and interesting and different but also full of life. He wonders about being Hokage. He never fancied himself much of a political leader, but the position reminded him of his old world, where everyone looked up to him for support and hope and where he would give every breath to preserve a single life. The Hokage here seems similar. Someone everyone looks up to, someone who protects the village with every cell on their body. Being a shinobi is definitely very different from being a hero. As a hero he killed a comparatively small number of villains in proportion to how many he captured. However, he did have times where death was the only option. The first time, he had to take a break due to shock. Eventually, he was able to do it if needed, even when it hurt his heart every time. In this world, killing is a lot less frowned upon. Many shinobi seemingly have high kill counts, even if capturing is still preferable for interrogation. Very jarring. But Izuku likes the philosophy his village has, teamwork rather than for thrill or any other purely selfish pursuit. He wonders if any of the other villages have such a seemingly noble cause for being a shinobi, as noble as a military dictatorship can be, anyways. However, all things come to an end, and for Izuku, it truly shows how the universe must absolutely despise him, because no matter the world, whether he's a blonde or has green hair, he's always hated for something out of his control. He hears the whispers about the demon child, the fox brat, the devil container, and it hurts, because in his old world, when people told him to kill himself because of his quirklessness, it took years to try and repair himself, and it could never return to how it once was. In a new world, he had hoped things were different, but alas, if Izuku Midoriya must exist, so too must he be tormented constantly. If he wasn't reincarnated, he wonders if he'd break under the pressure. There are no beatings, no scars on his body from multiple attempts to maim him and hurt him like his previous life. But the glares, the whispers, the neglect, avoidance, somehow it hurts more. Because even when he was bullied constantly, he existed. He was still Izuku Midoriya. Even if he was also Deku, the quirkless, here, he's not Naruto Uzumaki. He's just the demon child. He barely exists in their eyes because he isn't even human, he's a thing. But luckily, he survived before, and he'd be damned if he broke in this world. So he did what he knew how to do. He smiled, even when things were tough, because only the strongest can smile and inspire others to do the same. He would help around, he'd show everyone he wasn't the demon child, the fox brat, he wasn't any of those names. His name would be Naruto Uzumaki. Believe it! Izuku eventually found out who his father was when he was 4. The memory of the dreadful night he reincarnated was still fresh. You don't forget your parents' dying faces when you already have the power to analyze things. He saw he was the 4th Hokage. Izuku was shocked when he first saw it, since he was an orphan. He was also surprised that even being the son of a man he'd heard was revered as a god to some, he was treated so horribly. Therefore, he resolved to talk to the Hokage about it. The Hokage was a nice grandfatherly figure to Izuku. He never understood why he'd helped Naruto, until he saw his father's face on the monument. Of course he'd take care of him somehow, he was his successor's child, so he wanted to hear some stories about his family. Even if they were dead, they were his parents, and he felt their love for him. He wanted to honor that. When he entered the room, he was greeted with the Hokage's smile. It felt nice to have someone in this world look at him that way. It reminded Izuku of his mom, who'd always looked after him and loved him. Hiruzen was surprised to see Naruto visiting him. Every time he saw the boy his heart ached a little at how similar he was to Minato, the same intelligent, calculating eyes that analyzed everything, but also the kindness that endeared you to him instantly. It was a shame how the villagers treated him, but he was always respectful and looked to change that. It hurt him to see it, but even after all of it, he was always truly happy. His eyes spoke of wisdom which no child should have, and every time Hiruzen spoke to the boy it was like his words pierced his soul. He spoke like a leader, someone whom others looked up to and who had won the undying loyalty of others. Every time he visited the boy at the orphanage, he always asked for books about history and the world. He was able to absorb knowledge instantly. He had a curiosity for the world and a love of life that few had at that age. His eyes always had a hint of weariness, like he'd seen the worst the world has to offer. Yet in spite of that he always had a smile on his face. Even when things were bad, he would never frown or seethe with anger. One day, Hiruzen had asked him about it. Why do you smile every day when the village treats you so cruelly? He had asked. A hint of sadness and pity for the boy. His response had shocked him. He simply shook his head and laughed a little. Then, with a softer smile on his face, he responded to the question. Grandpa Hokage, it's because of the village's cruelty that I smile, smiling, even in the face of insurmountable odds and despair. Only people who can do that are truly strong. That's what I believe. Hiruzen knew the boy was wise beyond his years. How? He had no idea, but he clearly knew how to endure, and he knew that when he proclaimed to him that he'd become Hokage and protect everyone in the village, it was only a matter of time. Looking at Naruto right in front of him, he felt a smile across his lips. The boy never failed to make his day. What can I do for you today, Naruto? And then he asked a question that made his heart stop. Grandpa Hokage, do you think you can tell me a little about my father and mother? A frown tried to form his way to Hiruzen's lips. But he was a trained shinobi. He could school his expressions. He wished he could tell the boy, but it had put him at a high risk, too high a risk. I'm sorry, Naruto, but all we know is that they died the day the Nine Tails attacked. Hiruzen looked at his face expecting millions of different emotions, anger, indifference, sadness, but not confusion. Really? I thought it was clear, but if you really don't know, it's the 4th Hokage, Minato. I really thought that was why you took care of me, but I guess not, Naruto shrugged. Hiruzen's brain blue-screened. He didn't hear anything after Naruto stated his father's name. He swore Kakashi was laughing behind his ANBU mask at the moment. After some seconds to regain his composure, Hiruzen asked the question on his and every ANBU in the room's mind. How did you know? It was pretty obvious, no? I mean, I look like the guy way too much. Don't know my mother though. But my father is pretty clear, he said with a satisfied smile at his own reasoning. Hiruzen simply sighed. ANBU, this is an S-class secret. Speaking of this is punishable by death. All except dog step out. He felt his ANBU guard minus dog disappear. Hiruzen then proceeded to activate privacy seals. Naruto was looking at everything with a gleam of barely concealed curiosity. Dog stepped out of the shadows with his gravity-defying silver hair. S-class secret? I'm surprised it's at that level. I thought it was clear. A frown marred his face. Hiruzen sighed, cursing the fact he's smart like Minato. We tried to keep it secret to protect you, but clearly that was fated to never work. Naruto giggled slightly, maybe on someone else, but I assure you it would have never worked on me. Believe it? I guess not. But that's why I kept Dog. He can tell you about your parents. Hiruzen signaled Dog to unmask, revealing Kakashi Hatake. Naruto gasped slightly. You're the one I've felt constantly watching me. You know my mother and father? The child asked. It was weird to listen to the kid speak because it felt like he was speaking to an adult, not a toddler. It reminded Kakashi of Itachi. Kakashi nodded. Minato was my sensei and Kushina was like a big sister to me. They were incredibly strong and kind. I'd love to tell you about them, Kakashi said, smiling. Naruto's mouth broke into a wide grin. Awesome. You gotta tell me as much as you can. And so Kakashi did. For the next few hours, he told Naruto stories not only about Minato and Kushina, but also Kakashi's old genin team, about Kushina's masterful pranks and love of ramen, of how Minato would get so wrapped up in his jutsu and seal creation he'd forget about the world. It felt good to talk about them. It made Kakashi feel lighter. After a few hours, Izuku went back to the orphanage, but he felt better. Knowing his parents and his current life was great, he felt closer than ever before. He was never more determined to be a great ninja in that moment than ever before. A few months later, he was kicked out of the orphanage. They were tired of carrying the demon brat in the orphanage. Izuku simply rolled his eyes. Guess I'm gonna have to talk to Grandpa Hokage. Izuku made his way to the tower, and was able to secure a meeting with the third Hokage quickly. When he entered, he smiled widely. Hey! Grandpa Hokage! How are you? Grandpa Hokage chuckled softly at Izuku's exuberance. No matter what happened, the boy kept on smiling. Everything is going well, Naruto. How about you? Izuku winced a bit before speaking. Wish I could say the same, Grandpa. But I got bad news. The orphanage kicked me out for having the 9 tails inside me. The third frowned. Izuku sweated. Was this another thing I wasn't supposed to know? Was I not supposed to know about that? You guys need to learn how to hide secrets better if that's the case. Hiruzen sighed. Yes, you weren't supposed to know, but clearly keeping secrets from you is futile. Izuku frowned at this. I get why you tried to hide my parents. But this was something I really should have known. It's the reason everyone treats me so poorly. Hiruzen spoke up at that. Yes, I know. I wanted you to have a normal, happy childhood. Clearly, it wasn't meant to be. Izuku smiled softly at the old man. I know you meant well, Grandpa, and I appreciate it, but I can take the truth, regardless. What am I gonna do for my living situation? The Hokage thought for a moment and then spoke. Since you already know your heritage, I'll get you to stay with Kakashi. I think you both could use the company and friendship. Izuku grinned. That sounds awesome, Grandpa. Kakashi and I sounds great. Hopefully, he'll even help me train. Speaking of, how can I get in contact with the 9 tails? I wanna see how he is doing. The third had an unhappy look at that. Why would you want to contact it? Izuku looked confused at the question. It's probably super bored, cooped up in a seal inside a random 5-year-old's body? Maybe it could use the company. I can also see if there's a reason why it attacked. The third sighed. Naruto always loved to make friends, and he has been slowly working towards building up his reputation among the village. He's heard how Naruto would help people paint their homes, weed their gardens and carry groceries for old ladies. He truly was a kind-hearted boy, you would say that. A small smile made his way across his face on the fact that he wasn't to befriend the 9 tails. If anyone can do it, it's you. I would hazard a guess that you have to meditate and enter your mindscape to be able to reach it. Be careful, Naruto. The boy merely gave Hiruzen a blinding smile. Of course, Grandpa Hokage. Later in the day, Izuku sat down cross-legged on his bed and began meditating. He hadn't done it at all since he didn't expect to have a need for it without one for all. But since he was used to accessing his mindscape to speak with the vestiges, he bet this would be no different. Eventually, he opened his eyes and looked around his mind. He saw an expanse of black sky. A marble floor stretched as far as he could see. He felt a presence farther ahead and he approached it. As he arrived, he saw a gigantic cage with a tag with the word seal. Inside the cage he saw the throne room where the one for all users before him resided. But inside was a gigantic fox with one eye open, peering at him from inside the throne room. Izuku was used to voices in his head. Hell, he lived decades with 8 of them bothering him constantly. He died with them as well. The last voice he heard in his first life was them telling him they were proud to have been a part of Izuku's journey. It felt great. In this new world, he hoped the voice in his head would be just as pleasant. He hoped wrong. As soon as he was spotted by the Ninetales, the fox growled at him, "You dare show your face to me? Leave, brat!" The Ninetales thrust as much killing intent as he could through the bars. It was significantly diluted by the seal, but it should have been enough to kick out a mere 5-year-old. Instead, he was merely met with the raise of an eyebrow. "That's a nice amount of killing intent, but I dealt with worse in my first life. It's nice to meet you, Mr. Ninetales." Izuku then bowed. Before raising his head, "I hope we can be friends." If the fox looked surprised at the fact he withstood it, he didn't show it. "You aren't even worthy of breathing the same air as me, you wretched human." He put as much bite into his tone as possible. Izuku sighed. "This would be troublesome, you know. Usually the voices in my head are much more cooperative. Except for second and third, they were a pain in the ass at first." The Ninetales looked confused. He debated ignoring the human, but his curiosity won out in the end. "What the hell do you mean by second and third? And voices in your head? I'm the only one here." Izuku looked amused at his questions. He debated lying, but knowing that he was in his head, there was no reason to lie, as a show of trust. "I won't lie to you. This isn't my first life. In my previous life, I lived in a completely new world, where technology was much more advanced." Izuku manipulated his mindscape to show the Ninetales his old world. He learned how to do so when he had One for All, but he liked the throne aesthetic for the vestiges. The mindscape had a section completely changed to that of skyscrapers, cars, highways, and bright lights. "This was my world, a world where 80% of the population had something called quirks, or as you'd call them here, bloodline limits. Everyone had a unique quirk. Due to quirks, villains began appearing around the world, utilizing their gifts to hurt society. People who fought against villains were known as heroes, and they became an official profession at a later point." Izuku paused before he waved his hand and another image appeared. At this point, the Ninetales was enraptured in the story as much as he didn't want to be. Reincarnation, other worlds, this was the most interesting thing to happen to him in a long time. "This is my origin." Suddenly, a small 4-year-old Izuku was facing Katsuki Bakugo. "I wanted to be a hero more than anything. However, I was born into the 20% without a quirk. My dreams were shattered." Snapshots of Izuku's life were shown, showing how difficult his life was. At some point maybe he would have been ashamed of telling this story, but now, he wore it with pride. It was a badge of honor that he'd survived through that hell. "I never gave up though. I wanted to be a hero more than anything, and I was blessed. One day, I ended up saving my best friend, Katsuki Bakugo, from a villain, All Might. The #1 hero at the time deemed me worthy of inheriting his quirk, One for All. Due to my actions, I worked my ass off, and when I joined the top hero school, I went through so many trials and tribulations." Images flashed of significant events in Izuku's high school life such as USJ, the sports festival, Stain, etc. "When I passed away, I woke up as Naruto Uzumaki, and that's who I am now." Izuku was me from before, but now, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Believe it! A grin stretched across his face. The Ninetales eyed the brat with a critical eye. He was certainly unique if half that story was true, and it'd be extremely difficult to try and escape, even if the seal had a higher chance. He seemed to have eternal willpower, but the Ninetales wouldn't let go of his hatred any time soon. Instead, he merely scoffed and looked to the side. "You might be more interesting than most, but I will never work with a filthy human such as yourself. Now, get out." Izuku merely sighed at that. "We'll become friends, Mr. Ninetales. I swear. I'll talk to you later." And Izuku exited his mindscape. The Ninetales merely stared at where Izuku was, before going back to sleep. Izuku kept his promise to talk to the Ninetales later. Every week, he takes some time to tell the tailed beast a little about his week, what he did, what he hoped to do, etc. Though the Ninetales usually ignored him. Along with that, he began living with Kakashi. It was weird at first. Kakashi was awkward and fumbling and not a responsible adult, thankfully for both of them. Naruto was Izuku who had lived as an adult for decades, so he was able to parent both himself and Kakashi properly. "It's almost like a reverse adoption," Izuku mused. Kakashi was out of the house for hours, so Izuku usually had his apartment for himself. He usually slept on the couch since there wasn't another bedroom. But it was nice to have somewhere with people. As much as he didn't want to admit it, being ignored still hurt. Sure, he wasn't bitter about it, he already lived through this in another life. But that doesn't make the hurt disappear. Having Kakashi, even if it's just for a few hours, was a blessing. When Kakashi came back from one of his ANBU missions, Izuku had prepared him a meal, usually katsudon, since it's his favorite other than strangely ramen, which he didn't know how to make. Kakashi, meanwhile, was shocked at how mature Naruto was. The kid could cook, he was extremely well behaved, spent most of his time reading or training in some unique style focused on his legs. He was a prodigy, and one far above what anyone would expect. He seemed to have started reading up on seals and took to them like a fish to water. Kakashi was surprised that the kiddo hadn't asked him for training in any way. The kid hadn't unlocked his chakra, likely because he didn't know how to, but it didn't stop him from getting stronger. For a mere 5-year-old, he was extremely smart. For about a month Kakashi stayed distant or kept up an overly cheerful facade. During that time, Izuku had made no progress on befriending the fur ball or getting Kakashi to open up. Luckily, he was regaining his muscle memory on his fighting style, or taijutsu. It was weird having perfect arms again, so he resolved to find a way to reintegrate his arms into his taijutsu style. However, after that month he started to see a bit more of the real Kakashi. Whether that was him taking Naruto to the Memorial Stone or trying to corrupt him with Ika Ika, much to Izuku's dismay. The Nine-Tails on the other hand was being extremely stubborn. He hadn't had this much time getting someone to open up since Todoroki and his daddy issues. The problem is the Nine-Tails hates humans. Izuku connected with Todoroki through their shared pressure over their legacies. At the time, Izuku was carrying All Might's legacy. Willingly, sure, but it was still a lot of pressure. And Todoroki was forced to carry Endeavor's for the longest time. Due to this similarity, Izuku was able to pierce Todoroki's heart and begin the process of befriending him. The only thing Izuku shares with the Nine-Tails is the hatred of others. Others treat them horribly. And while sharing the same pain is a powerful way to bond, it requires the willingness of the other to do the same. And while Izuku wants to bond, the Nine-Tails believes Izuku to be just like all the other humans. And as long as that disconnect exists, Izuku finds it extremely hard to bond with the tailed beast, so he'll keep talking to the fox and treating him like anyone else. When the tailed beast decides he wants to participate, then Izuku will pounce. 3 months into the future, Kakashi finally approached Naruto. "Naruto, I've noticed you're training and studying. Would you like me to help train you as well?" he asked. Kakashi secretly hoped he said yes. He hadn't experienced a modicum of true happiness in years, and the first taste of it had been when this intelligent and kind child burst into his life. Now, he's going to make sure he savors every morsel he can acquire. Naruto's eyes blast wide open. If there's one thing Kakashi knows about Naruto, it's that he's an open book like his mom. The moment he experiences an emotion, whether joy or sadness, he immediately lets it out. It's what makes his smiles daily so powerful. Naruto has a love of life so few have, that it's infectious. He has his moments of sadness naturally, but he always picks himself up. Even when there are whispers around him, he finds the will to keep being happy. So when he saw those parted lips burst into a wide grin, Kakashi felt that small bud of happiness blooming once again. Izuku went with Kakashi to unlock his chakra. He had been interested in it, but he felt like experimenting with chakra was too dangerous to do unsupervised. Now with Kakashi, who's an ANBU, he'll be able to do anything he needs. Once they arrived at a training ground, Kakashi sat down in a lotus position and told Naruto to do the same. "What do I have to do, Kakashi and I-san?" Izuku's face looked inquisitive. Kakashi took a deep breath and lifted his headband, revealing his Sharingan. "I want you to close your eyes." Izuku does so. "Now, I want you to feel close to your chest." The body is composed of 361 tenketsu, and within those tenketsu, there are the 8 gates connected to the body's chakra network. The 8th gate is known as the Gate of Death, located at the heart, in an unactivated chakra system. Chakra is generated in the cells and travels through the tenketsu, and coalesces at the heart, where it gathers. By activating your chakra network, the flow of chakra becomes circulatory and you're then able to mold it for jutsu. Feel the coalescing chakra in your heart, and expand it outwards, so it refills every cell in your body. Izuku listened to his instructions. At first, it felt like a small spark in his heart. He could feel the drum-like beating and the blood flowing throughout his body. He focused on that spark and tightened it. A rush of warmth overflowed his body, and all Izuku could think about was how similar it was to One for All. His chakra flooded his cells, but it felt like he would burst. Izuku let the feeling overcome him, and all around him the world exploded into a brilliant azure. Kakashi had felt others opening their chakra before. It usually felt like simply a small warmth. At most, for people like himself, it was a glow corresponding to their chakra. Chakra, visible chakra that is usually a light blue. It varies very slightly. But the most unusual chakra was the white of the Hatake clan. Their chakra was sharp and cold to the touch. When Kakashi felt Naruto's chakra opened up, he imagined that it was similar to how the first Hokages felt. He saw the deep blue glow surrounding Naruto at first, and while chakra that pure was very, very rare, it was normal for a Jinchuriki to simply glow. What Kakashi didn't expect was the explosion of blue that followed. The ground around Naruto cracked under the pressure, and for the briefest of moments it felt like the sun was there, bathing all in its light. Kakashi had never felt chakra as pure and as powerful as this. Naruto had no skill in chakra yet, and it would be difficult to wrangle the control necessary to maximize on it. But the moment Kakashi felt that chakra, he knew a ninja monster would be born. The aura of pure energy faded from view almost seconds later. He knew the entire village would go on alert. But they'd see it was simply Naruto and wonder what the hell Minato and Kushina were on when they conceived Naruto. Well, that was something. Naruto opened one eye. Did I do well, Nai-san? You did fine. It had been 2 years since Izuku started training under Kakashi. At first, it was bizarre using chakra. However, that first day when he opened the floodgates of chakra, he became a beacon in the village. Grandpa Hokage had called him over because he was shocked at the burst of chakra. Once that scare was over, Izuku trained under Kakashi for a couple of hours whenever possible. Unfortunately, Kakashi still worked as an ANBU and couldn't just teach Izuku all the time. However, when not on a mission, he'd take a couple of hours of that free time to help Izuku out. It started with simple chakra control exercises. Izuku surprised Kakashi with how good he was at chakra control. It still was below average, but considering Izuku's reserves, he was doing remarkably well. Izuku chalked it up to how experienced he was with One for All and minute power changes. A minor slip-up on how much power you're packing, and you'd kill someone quickly. It was still 6 months before Kakashi let Izuku do anything more than chakra control. Izuku kept up with his taijutsu and began practicing fuinjutsu, or sealing. He loved reading a lot and experimenting. It felt like his quirk analysis all over again, but instead of quirks, it was seals. Each was unique, and Izuku had a blast even doing the basics. Sadly, by the time the 2 years were over, he still had no battle-ready seals. Most of the early sealing levels were storage or stealth seals. He learned one minor paralysis seal. However, it was only usable against animals. Eventually, Kakashi began teaching Izuku the Academy 3, transformation, clone, and substitution. It took Izuku only a few days to get the substitution and transformation jutsu, but the clone was simply not happening. After pestering Kakashi enough, he taught Izuku the shadow clone jutsu. This time, he got it in a couple of hours. The results were shocking to Kakashi. Izuku was able to make around 80 clones easily. When Izuku got older, Kakashi theorized he'd be able to make thousands with the amount of chakra he's likely to have. From there, Kakashi taught Naruto a few standard jutsus almost everyone can use and has in their arsenal, such as the Earth Style, Hidden Mole and Earth Style, Headhunter Jutsu. By the time Izuku was 6.5, he'd become a beginner in fuinjutsu. His taijutsu was nearly flawless, though it still leaves a little to be desired due to his arms being underutilized. Additionally, his ninjutsu was coming along well, and Kakashi finally began teaching Izuku elemental manipulation. Flashback. Kakashi took a piece of chakra paper and handed it to Izuku. Naruto, you simply channel your chakra into this and see what your affinity or affinities are. For example, mine is lightning, so the paper would crumple. Your father was wind while your mother was water. Let's see what you get. Izuku began channeling chakra into the paper. Like usual, whenever he channeled chakra, the locations through which that chakra is transferred glow blue. However, it still left Kakashi gobsmacked whenever he saw it. The paper was cut in half before completely turning into water. Kakashi was very surprised at that. You seem to have a standard wind affinity and powerful water affinity. I'd say you'll likely be on the level of Lord Second, We'll see as you get older. This led to Kakashi teaching Izuku some elementary water and wind jutsus, such as the water style, liquid bullets, and wind style. Great breakthrough. The most surprising thing was what Izuku's chakra acted like. Izuku believed that the reason his chakra was so pure was a byproduct of his quirk, one for all, of course. His quirk didn't completely transfer over, but one for all is a pure stockpile of energy at its most basic. It's possible that this energy was converted to pure chakra and could now be channeled similarly. Once Izuku had this idea, he began experimenting until he created what he called his chakra cloak. When Izuku channeled his chakra throughout his body, it caused his body to turn blue and exude chakra. He could only hold it for a minute a day, but in that minute, he learned a lot about it. He could create chakra arms or legs and use those arms to perform jutsu, which enhanced his physical capabilities. It was almost precisely like one for all in terms of activation. However, it cost him way too much chakra to use. Right now, Izuku is about to start his 5 years at the academy. People start at 7 years old, and after 5 years, they become genin if they pass the graduation test. Izuku was shocked that people started this early. Sure, Izuku was a fully fledged hero at 16, but 12 and 13-year-olds being able to commit murder left a bad taste in his mouth. But a new world, new rules, and Izuku could change things once he became Hokage anyway. Entering the classroom, Izuku looked around and saw a bunch of kids, approximately 24. He recognized many of them as clan heirs, such as Sasuke Uchiha and Hinata Hyuga. Izuku smiled and took a seat next to a pink-haired girl. When he looked at her, she had a face of pure anger. It sort of reminded Izuku of Kaken. She looked at him and quirked an eyebrow. What the hell do you want extra? Izuku's eyes widened, and he sucked in a deep breath. Then, he whispered to her in a tiny voice, Kaken? The girl's eyes widened as she leaned in. Deku? She whispered, almost as if the words were foreign in her mouth. Izuku gave her a blinding smile, and small tears started falling. Thankfully, he was at the back of the classroom next to the Uchiha, so most wouldn't see it. I can't believe it. You're here too? She gave him a feral grin. Well, at least someone here will give me a goddamn challenge. Just as Izuku was about to respond, the Uchiha appeared in front of them. I couldn't help but, shut the fuck up, extra. We aren't talking to you. Kaken likely expected the guy to flake, but instead, he laughed, and a small smile formed on his face. Bakugo, Midoriya, it's nice to see you again. The Uchiha had a small number of tears in his eyes. Izuku recognized that tone and attitude, the small smiles and laughter. Todoroki? The Uchiha nodded. Kaken started cackling. We are going to fuck this world up. They won't know what fucking hit em when we're done with everything. Izuku smiled ferally. He gave that rare smile when he was fired up fighting against Kaken. We all need to meet after school. We can talk more then. I'm pretty sure that our sensei will be getting here soon. They both nodded, though Katsuki kept that evil smirk on her face. Todoroki merely kept his impassive facade up. Izuku went back to his regular smile. A couple of seconds passed before their sensei arrived. He motioned for the class to quiet down, but when they didn't, he used some kind of big head jutsu, shutting everyone up. Alright, everyone, my name is Irika Yumino, but you can all call me Irika-sensei. I'll be your academy sensei for the next 5 years. Here, we'll be learning everything from civilian classes such as history, mathematics, and writing to shinobi skills like shuriken jutsu, taijutsu, and ninjutsu. Today, we'll be going around the classroom and introducing ourselves. For example, your name, maybe a hobby or a like, etc. We'll start with... Irika quickly glanced down to see who the boy in front of him was, Shikamaru Nara. And so they began, and people introduced themselves. There were interesting characters, like the Nara, who enjoyed cloud watching, and the Aburame, who loved insects. Then came a girl named Sakura Haruno, also known as Bakugo Katsuki. Sakura Haruno. She stood up, smirking. Izuku and Todoroki could already tell Bakugo would do something to antagonize half the class. My name is Sakura fucking Haruno. I enjoy beating extras up, and I'm gonna become the strongest ninja ever. She punctuated this by smashing her hand on the desk, nearly causing it to break. Izuku merely sighed, smiling fondly. Kaken will never truly change, will he? Irika merely looked at her with an expression Izuku often saw on Aizawa. The I'm too old for this shit, and my existence stare that often signaled he was about to go and sleep, sadly. Irika-sensei didn't have that opportunity. Instead, he could only sigh as he continued, Naruto Uzumaki? Izuku stood up. He could sense the trepidation in Iruka-sensei. Though he did his best to hide it, at least he's a fair sensei, even if he's afraid. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I enjoy training and spending time with Kakashi and Ai-san. My dream is to become the strongest Hokage to ever live. Everyone in the class was surprised at the declaration. Most would generally have laughed at Izuku. But when the students looked into his eyes, they saw an unyielding resolve. Sakura smirked. Good Deku. I'm glad you still have that fire inside you, as expected of my rival. Iruka looked surprised, but a smile made its way onto his face. That's a good dream. Last but not least, Sasuke Uchiha. Almost all the girls, minus Sakura and Hinata Hyuga, squealed when he stood up. Izuku swore he felt liquid trickle out of his ears at the noise. Sasuke merely sighed. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I enjoy spending time with Itachi and Ai-san, cold soba, and tomatoes. My dream is to change the Uchiha clan from within. This caused more girls to squeal. Kaken was cackling at how annoyed Todoroki looked at the attention. Izuku was hiding his snickers. Todoroki shot them an icy glare before sitting down. Izuku could hear whispers about the Uchiha prodigy who had unlocked his Sharingan even earlier than Itachi. At age 7, no one had yet to learn how he seemingly accomplished such a feat. Iruka-sensei seemingly wanted a demonstration of everyone's current abilities before joining the academy, so he organized students to spar with each other, with him overseeing them. Izuku paid attention to each of his classmates. But Katsuki merely looked bored watching everything, that is until she was called. Sakura Haruno vs. Hinata Hyuga. As they both got into the arena, Kaken had a feral grin. Good luck, White Eyes. You're gonna need it. Hinata, for her part, looked terrified. After performing the seal of confrontation, the match began. It wasn't a contest. Izuku saw that Katsuki kept up with her training. She got inside her range and quickly knocked Hinata to the ground with a palm strike to the face before pinning her there. The match was over in seconds. Izuku smiled at her. Glad to see you've kept up your skills. She gave him a feral grin. Of course, Deku, can't let any extras beat me. Iruka called the next match. Sasuke Uchiha vs. Naruto Uzumaki. Todoroki groaned at that. In his first life, he was decent at hand-to-hand. You don't become a student of Shota Aizawa without learning to fight quirklessly. At least decently. Compared to Izuku though, he was a baby. Nevertheless, he had trained in the Interceptor Fist and had his Sharingan, so he hoped that'd make things out. Plus, he knew a small amount of jutsu due to his clan heir position, which Izuku likely didn't have. Good luck, Sasuke, said Izuku, smiling. Todoroki grunted, and they formed the seal of confrontation. When the match began, they watched each other for a couple moments, then Izuku burst at Todoroki with speed not befitting a 7-year-old. They'd have been caught off guard if it was anyone other than Todoroki. He was still fast, but Todoroki's Sharingan helped, and he was still an experienced hero. Izuku tried to sweep Todoroki, but Todoroki masterfully evaded by jumping back. He knew Izuku was most definitely faster than he was. Todoroki knew he'd likely have to rely on his little ninjutsu skill and Sharingan. He went through several hand signs before shouting, Fire Style, Fireball Jutsu. If Izuku was shocked, Todoroki couldn't see it, but Izuku countered with a series of hand signs, Water Style, Liquid Bullets. The resulting steam blanketed the field. Thankfully, the Sharingan, even if it had only one tomo, helped him see clearly through the mist. However, he was shocked that he couldn't see Izuku anywhere. He looked up to see if he was maybe in the air, but before he could look down, his instincts screamed at him to jump, so he did so. Izuku jumped out of the earth, looking mad. Damn! Izuku hissed under his breath. Todoroki decided to test Izuku's taijutsu since he knew Izuku was enjoying himself too much to end the match, so he ran inside his range. They began a 1-versus-1 taijutsu fight. Kick, dodge, punch, block, swerve, sweep, jump, uppercut, right hook, roundhouse kick. Izuku was grinning at the battle. Todoroki was losing though. He knew if he wanted to win, he'd need to use his trump card. In the audience, almost everyone was stunned at the skill those two displayed, especially the teachers. Kaken was merely cackling at the fight, wishing he could jump in and make it a free-for-all. What he saw next though shocked him. Naruto. I'm surprised you pushed me this far, considering I've had the clan training me, but this is where it ends. Todoroki went through hand signs, but his mouth glowed blue when his next attack came. Fire Style, Azure Flame Technique, Phoenix Flower Jutsu. A blue fireball was launched at Izuku, which split into multiple smaller flames, looking to surround the blonde. Now, Izuku couldn't hide the shock on his face. This could confirm his theory. Todoroki's quirk, half hot, half cold, might allow him to enhance his flames, making them much hotter. Knowing this, Izuku had to bust out some big guns. He made the cross sign and created a baker's dozen of shadow clones. They all performed the same hand signs. Then, a chorus of water-style, liquid bullets was heard. The combined ocean of water exploded around him, snuffing out the fireballs. Additionally, it caused a small steam explosion, blinding Todoroki. Todoroki was prepared to shoot another fireball when suddenly he fell to the ground and felt a hand on his neck. I win. In the confusion with the fireball and shadow clones, the real Izuku used the hidden mole jutsu to appear behind Todoroki. Once in range, he could use Earth-style headhunter jutsu to make him fall through the ground. Before Todoroki reacted, Izuku placed a hand on his neck, indicating victory. The audience was stunned for many reasons: the blue fire, the far above academy-level capabilities, the surprising victory from the orphan and demon. To many, Todoroki looked shocked but began to laugh, muttering something about blondes being crazy in every world. Bakugo looked ready to attack Izuku to get a fight out of him. She didn't, only because she knew Izuku wouldn't give her the challenge she needed after that kind of fight. Iruka looked shocked at everything that happened, though he was glad to see the camaraderie that the young Uchiha had with Naruto. Unlike the rest of his clan, he didn't seem like the type to hold a grudge for losing. After everyone got over their shock, there were cheers from everyone. Izuku helped Todoroki up from his position and walked back to his classmates with him after forming the seal of reconciliation. Kaken was waiting there with an excited gleam in her eyes. Once Iruka let them out, they began talking as they neared the exit. They spoke about what they'd been up to, who's taking care of them, etc. Izuku told them quickly about his status as a Jinchuriki. Katsuki looked shocked. Man, that's why people hate ya. My parents told me to avoid you like dumbass. But I can see why. You'd be a terrible demon, though, too much of a nerd for that, she said, looking at him with a challenging look. Izuku grew a tick mark. Oh yeah? Well, this nerd can still beat you in a fight any day of the week. Oh yeah. Wanna go Deku? I'll beat your ass black and blue as often as you want. Todoroki cut in before it escalated. Let's calm down, guys. He flashed his Sharingan. They both humphed, then a smile bloomed, and they began laughing. It felt good to banter. Kaken spoke up again. So how is the fur ball? Is he evil as shit or not? Izuku shrugged. I dunno. I'm trying to befriend him, but he's as stubborn as a mule, so I just talk to him at the end of the week and hope he eventually decides to befriend me. That's all I can do. Todoroki smiled. If there is anyone who can befriend a tailed beast, it's you, Izuku. You were able to get through to me, Bakugo, and many others. My faith in you has never wavered, and I know that when you set your mind on something, nothing can stop you. So, Ninetales, if you can hear me, I'd suggest giving up now. When Izuku wants something, he'll go through hell for it, so you might as well acquiesce. Izuku smiled at the show of support. They learned that Todoroki had an excellent big brother as they continued talking. Both Izuku and Katsuki looked shocked. He isn't trying to kill you? Asked Izuku. He won't kill your dad? Continued Bakugo. He isn't laughing maniacally? Your family isn't torturing you? Your brother likes you? Todoroki flashed his Sharingan again, shutting them up. No, my family is fine. My dad still sucks, but I'm enough of a prodigy to where he isn't breathing down my neck. Itachi and Ii-sen is absolutely fantastic. I love him a lot. He's an amazing big brother. My mom reminds me of my first mother. She appears gentle, but inside she can be ferocious when she wants to be. Izuku smiled. It seemed Todoroki had a decent family this time around. At least someone got an improvement. Katsuki appeared to have a much more boring life than everyone else. Kaken was a prodigy among prodigies, though, and even if he couldn't be trained by a clansman, he could piece together a lot by watching other ninjas train. He learned from Izuku's style of learning by watching others. He took notes and analyzed everything he could. Finally, Todoroki told him he'd see if Itachi could help train Katsuki. Much to Kaken's reluctant joy, the first person to arrive was Itachi, who was coming to pick Sasuke up on his first day. Sasuke had always been a calm and collected child, similar to Itachi. He seemed wise beyond his years, and he worked harder than anyone. The most amazing, though, was his flames. When Sasuke learned the fireball jutsu, he put a lot of chakra into the technique. This would usually make it bigger but caused him to create blue flames instead. The fireball flew over the lake and evaporated the water near its flight path. Itachi was stunned at his little brother, who had a surprised look and even a hint of fear. But that expression soon disappeared, and a small smile made its way to his little brother's face. Itachi was concerned, the way the clan was going. It seemed like things might reach a boiling point soon. How the clan was shunned after the Nine-Tails attack has caused cracks to ripple across them. Itachi was worried for his brother. He hoped he would never find out about such things. But he was just as much, if not more perceptive than Itachi was at his age. He was reserved and calm to an unnatural degree and had an eye for details that nearly rivaled Itachi's own at half his age. He's sure that if Itachi's mother, Mikoto, hadn't put her foot down on forcing Sasuke to go through all 5 academy years, he'd have been a genin already. Itachi saw Sasuke animatedly talking with 2 people. A loud, boisterous pink-haired girl kept swearing like a sailor and laughing maniacally. He also saw him talking with the energetic but intelligent Naruto Uzumaki. He had heard stories from the Hokage and the other ANBU. They had rotations watching over Naruto about how he always smiles and brightens people's day when talking to him. Itachi could believe it because Sasuke rarely had a smile unless he spent time with Itachi himself. Itachi tried to keep Sasuke at arm's length to protect him, but the child was too perceptive for his good. Sasuke walked up to Itachi and hugged him. Itachi and I-san, meet my 2 friends, Naruto Uzumaki and Sakura Haruno. The pink-haired girl, whom he had just learned is named Sakura, looked at him as if sizing him up. Sasuke said you were strong, but I don't see it. Itachi's sweat dropped while Naruto nearly fainted. Naruto responded before Sasuke or Itachi could. Sakura. What the hell are you saying? Kakashi and I-san says Itachi's one of the strongest in the village. He can put up a fight with you. Sakura looked to be re-evaluating. Well, if Naruto thinks you're strong, maybe you might put up a challenge. Itachi laughed at their antics while Sasuke sighed. You two are truly unbearable at times, said Sasuke, looking exasperated. Naruto turned toward Itachi. It's nice to meet you, Mr. Itachi. Sasuke's great, and he speaks very highly of you. I'm glad he has such a nice big brother. It's nice to meet you both, said Itachi, with a slight smile on his face. Sasuke has difficulty making friends back in the compound. It's nice to know he has people he can rely on. Sakura smirked. The bastard could be worse, I guess. Sasuke shook his head. I'll see you both tomorrow. Let's go, Itachi. They both soon walked away. Izuku was the next person to leave with Kakashi and I-san. He promised to pick up Naruto on the first day just for it to be something special. Izuku was delighted about this, to say the least. Things were looking up for him. He has a family in Kakashi and Grandpa Hokage and friends in Bakugo and Todoroki's reincarnations. Unfortunately, before they left, Bakugo not so subtly threatened Kakashi with significant bodily harm if he ever treated Izuku poorly, much to Izuku's chagrin. While this was going on, the pot was stirring in the shadows of the Uchiha, and at the center would be 2 brothers, Sasuke and Itachi Uchiha.